Good morning, everyone. Happy to slay, and welcome to the Rise and Slay talk show. My name is Rochelle Slay, or Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success. So, as you come in this morning to have a powerful conversation, because I think sometimes I have a tendency to kind of gloss over this, but today we're going to get deep into our topic for this morning. But as you come in, please let me know where you're streaming in from, give us your name, and tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world this morning. And so I am here as your guide, y'all. All right. So this is a space for high visibility leaders, those that are stepping into, high visibility, those are already in high visibility roles. And this could look like anything from being an entrepreneur because you were always networking in person, on virtual. It could be going into a public facing role. Maybe you're looking for a community leadership position, or if you're stepping into a new career where you're the newbie, okay? And sometimes, especially at our age, all right, and I'm talking usually to women who are between the ages of 40 and 60, okay, where we don't have a lot of time to spend on being seen, being heard, being chosen. We have so many things that we have accomplished over the years, and now we're turning it into influence, okay? So listen, y'all, good morning and blessings to you too, Chris. Thank you so much for being here live with me this morning. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing extremely well. It's been a morning. I will share what has been going on with me. But I'll tell you this, y'all. I am a speaker. I am an author of several different books behind me here. I am a consultant, and I consult in executive presence and visibility. I'm also a United States Air Force veteran. I served for 30 years. And so after I served, I started my business called Slay to Success. Now, Slay to Success is an experience. Slay means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, and to dream big and work hard until you own it. All right. Now, it is also an acronym, which I recently rebranded, if you will, for the method, the strategy, the framework that I have used and also my clients have used when it comes to stepping in influential spaces. So that is the S is strategic identity, L is leadership presence, A is aesthetics authority, and Y is your narrative power. Okay, so I want us to talk about fitness, okay, this morning, because I get questions all the time on how do I continue to maintain my fitness regime. And, my short answer is a system. Okay, that's the short answer. But today, I'm going to get into a little bit deeper about how all this matters. How does this shape your style, your presence, and your power? Now, some people will be a little bit, I would say, not offended, but they're not quite sure of why I harp on this. And then when I show up, y'all, because I feel good. I really, really, really feel good. Um, I get a little bit of flack about it. Oh, you exercise every day? Oh, no, that's just way too much. And I'm just like, well, that's not too much for me. So let me just start out with this. Fitness isn't just physical for me, especially at my age of 54 years old. I think I'm 54 or I'm 53. Y'all do the math. I was born in 1972. Okay. So sometimes, these 50, mid 50s, you kind of forget what age you are. My husband will remind me, okay, because he keeps track. Um, but it's not just physical for me, it is a standard, it is a lifestyle, it is part of who I am. Has it always been like this? No. So before I went into the military in 1991, I was 200 pounds and I suffered from childhood obesity, All right. So as I was growing up, I was being bullied. I was a blunt of people's jokes. I wore a size 22. All right. And so I had to go and buy the clothes at Hill's department store because at that time, that was like this big old warehouse with all these sizes of clothes, and I could find my size in there. My mom, however, sold most of my clothes. So the only time we went to Hills is like for our first day of school, all right? Or it was a special event or a pair of jeans. I remember, I think I was like 14 or 15 years old and getting my first pair of jeans. And we bought them from Hills department store. So being at that point of my life, I had low self-esteem. I was quiet. I was very timid. I just went along to get along, and I ate a lot. And I used to make up all these excuses as to why I needed to eat as much as I was eating and not really balancing out with the activity. I was in track. Okay. So again, at that time or that period of my life, track was more of a social, and I didn't run. I wasn't one of the runners. I played or I competed in discus and shot put. And in those two activities, there wasn't a lot of running. So I felt like, okay, because I am lifting a heavy ball and spinning around in a circle for the discus throw, that I needed to consume a lot of food. And I really didn't. I had to learn over the years. Well, let's just fast forward to my senior year of high school. And I had dropped weight between my junior year and senior year. And I got to 160 pounds from working. Then it was okay, I got two jobs, okay? And then so I was working and I lost another 20 pounds over the summertime, which then allowed me the opportunity to enlist in the Air Force because at that time the maximum allowable weight was 142 pounds. I can remember it to this day. I weighed in at 139 pounds. All right. Now, for the first 10 years of my military career, I struggled because I didn't understand fitness, wellness, eating, nutrition. I had no idea. All right. So I was winging it until I ended up being in the commander's office and they were giving me paperwork for not meeting my weight because you had to be within 5 pounds. If you were within 5 pounds of your weight limit, then you had to get measured. All right. And then that's when things were starting to get a little bit scary for me. And I remember getting a letter of reprimand. And the next step up was a letter of reprimand with the unfavorable information file, which I saw the fine print. I read it and it was like you weren't able to qualify to go to school. You weren't able to be promoted. I mean, it limited my ability to progress in the Air Force. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted a career at that point because I had been 10 years in. I'm like, why not do the 10 more, all right, to get to 20 years? And y'all who have been following my journey, you know that I served for 30 years. And so at that 10-year mark, I realized that fitness needed to be a standard for me. That's when I got into home fitness equipment, firm videos. I was running outside. I was doing things to continue to maintain my activity, but then I realized also that I needed to find out more about nutrition. How was I going to fuel my body? I wanted to push myself more, but I needed to have the right fuel. I had to have the right balance, right? So I have learned all of that. And so, you know, this standard that I have when it comes to fitness, it has really sharpened how I show up, how I lead, and how I carry myself in every room that I walk into. So when people ask me, well, how does this all happen? And I always point it back to my fitness regime. So when it's consistent, everything aligns. That's what I have learned over the past 30 years because it's been a 30-year journey. Was I always, running at 7.5, 8.0? No, I had to build up to that over time. Was I lifting heavier weights? And I'm talking about more than 20-pound hand weights because as you grow older, your goal is to not to get injured. All right, our bones get fragile. So are you putting enough resistance for your bones to have that right amount of density? Right. So there is a lot that goes into it, but once you become consistent, everything starts to align. Your posture becomes stronger. Your energy is steady. I got very high energy, y'all. I have never uh been where I've had to like flat out, lay down and I've taken naps. I'm not saying that's not part of it too, but where I just completely wiped out. Like really I have high energy when it comes to the work that I am in right now. Okay? And what I had to do when I was in the military. And my style is very intentional. Okay? I understand what to accentuate and what not to accentuate. All right. I understand what fits my body and what doesn't fit my body. All right. I am so in tune where everything is in alignment and I'm not forcing the presence that I have. I embody it. And that is what I want to speak to y'all about this morning is about embodying your presence and getting to a point where you can see yourself, all right, in different places that you've never even thought about because you have the right level of confidence, you have the right level of understanding and knowledge about what it is that you want to do. You get very clear. All right. I am so focused when I'm in my work, y'all. I am very hyper focused. And so it doesn't seem like work to me of what I'm doing. And I have a show on Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And people are like, and then you flip around and you have another show on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yes, because I have a system. All right. And so it's not hard for me to build because I'm building my business right now and having others to build their business using the framework. And so the framework is a SLAY method that I speak to that really gets you to where you would like to go. All right. So again, my fitness philosophy, it did not start just yesterday or I haven't been in it for a few years. This has been my life. And I caught the discipline of fitness again while I was in the military. But when I was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas, and so that's been many moons ago, but I, at the time, was working in the family medicine clinic, and I had about 70 technicians, and we scheduled for physical fitness training twice a week, early in the morning, getting it in. All right. And then I would go to the Gold's Gym. And at the Gold's Gym, I was teaching group fitness classes. And there was a woman that was also active duty, and she was a master sergeant at the time. And her name is Lori Smith. She did ESPN competitions, so just imagine in Vegas, Vegas is really like known for, fitness, build bodybuilding, that type of lifestyle. And so she was into those competitions. We became really great friends and we're still great friends to this day. And she taught me how to challenge myself, how to get out of my comfort zone, how to really push myself in so many ways to see myself differently, to make decisions differently, to move differently. And I caught the bug. I really caught the bug, and I have been on this journey for quite some time. So I've maintained my weight loss, y'all, which I am so grateful for, because my family has a tendency, to be uh, afflicted by high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease. And so that sometimes is, what happens when you're not really taking care of your body. Like, even if you have the genetic makeup for it, you still have to challenge yourself not to get to a point where you're just forgetting about the benefits of your fitness. All right. So I don't chase the scale anymore. I don't have a scale. Well, we have scales in the house, but I don't get on them. All right. The only time that I get on a scale is when I go to the doctor's office. And I went last week, and it was the same weight that I've been at for many years. All right. I really gauge how I feel now, how I move, how I show up, and that shift alone changes everything. So let me talk about what this actually looks like. Okay. Good morning, Queen. How you doing, Chevy? Thank you so much for being here live on the Rise and Slay Talk Show. So let me tell you how this all really happens. And Chevy is, big time into, consistency, working out. She's done fitness competitions as well. So, we understand what this is all about. So chime in as you can, Queen, on what we share here. So I train every day. All right. Now, some days are my recovery days where I'm just either walking or I'm doing low intensity cardio. All right. But I'm moving my body. All right. So let me just give you an example of when you have to make some decisions based on the time constraints, because people will tell me all the time, I don't have time to work out. Okay. And my response to that is we make time for anything. We make time to go get our hair done. We make time to go get our nails done. We make time to go and buy an outfit. We make time to go to brunch with our friends. We have time. It's what are you doing with your time? So this morning, our son, he trains on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings with his team, and it's in our community. They go to the clubhouse, he rides his bike down there. And then he came back this morning, and he's rushing all around this morning, y'all. And he missed the bus. So I had to take him to school. Now, I don't say I had to, I had to refrain. I got to take our son to school, because when I was in the military, that would have never happened. All right. There would have been a whole lot of shifting going on. He probably wouldn't make it on time. There would be a pass that he had to sign in for. But now, I said, okay. And usually it's after he gets on the bus, I go into my exercise routine. So I said, okay, let me take you to school. So took him to school and came back. And then I knew I had a small window of time to exercise, then get dressed and be here on the show. So what did I do, y'all? I did a 20-minute Tabata ride. Now, Tabata is 20 seconds on and 10 seconds off. But because I have trained for a very long time, I knew how to get the resistance up and my heart rate up. All right. So I was able to complete a 20-minute Tabata ride on my bike, on my spin bike, and I have Peloton. Okay. My handle is Air Force Chief. If you ever want to follow me or if you need some encouragement. But I did the 20 minutes, got dressed, took a shower, got dressed, came here, and I already had the show already geared up, because that's what I do on Mondays. all right, is to gear up the show, tie up any admin stuff that I have, connect with my clients that I'm working with. So it's like my admin day. So it wasn't hard for me to go and take him to school, do a 20-minute vigorous exercise, then get ready to come here on the show. My routine is anywhere from 20 minutes to 90 minutes. All right, depending on my schedule. Just how everything kind of works. And in that moment, I'm doing interval training. I'm doing HIIT, which is high intensity interval training. I'm doing heavyweight training. All right. And again, we're not picking up 5 and 10-pound hand weights. All right. If that's where you're at, that's a start. All right. But it's recommended that we pick up some heavy weights. All right. So that way we're not, injuring ourselves, having broken bones, getting into osteoporosis. Right. You work up to that level. I also do metabolic weight training, which are lighter weight, anywhere from, 20 pounds to 40 pounds for me, because that's, where I'm at and how I've trained. And you're doing compound exercises. So, squats with overhead presses, plank rows, so you're planking and you've got a row and you're rowing it like a bent over row. I know some of this is a little terminology, but this is, the fitness aspect where I'm in. Spinning, I do a lot of spinning on the bike, and I do a lot of running. Actually, running is my strongest suit, y'all. It developed over time, but I realized that when I was active duty, that I could run. I'm not the fastest runner, but I can hold my own. And it's something that I have learned. And you're always on one foot when you're running. So you have that balance that you have to work on too with that. So I I enjoy it. I can get to a point, the first 10 minutes may be a little bit, okay, because you're just warming up. And y'all, please, we need to be stretching, okay? I know some folks are just like, no, I'm going to skip over stretching. I have skipped over stretching, and I have injured myself because of that, like back pain or leg pain or something like that. So we need to be stretching. I also do evening walks. So you will see me, okay, sometimes posting videos, mostly on Facebook side, where I am exercising in the morning, intensely. And then in the evening, I'm taking a walk, because it's about step counts. It's about getting fresh air, vitamin D, changing your environment. Like, all these things are important. And my favorite of all of what I'm speaking to is the interval training and what is called boot camp training. I love boot camp. You're either riding, you're running, so you're doing some cardio activity, and then you transition into a weight activity, and you do that back and forth for X amount of time. Now, for me, yesterday I did a hydrox, I think that's what it's called, hydrox training, which was 75 minutes of running at a threshold pace, which for me is 6.0, for 5 minutes. Okay. And then going and doing a simulated hydrox weight training. Y'all, I was wiped out, but I tell you, I was feeling amazing, or slay amazing, after I was done. So we got to be challenging ourselves. But boot camps really push me mentally just as much as it does physically. And it's because I've had structured discipline that's built the endurance, the strength, and the control. Okay. So that is a little bit about the fitness piece that I wanted to share with you all about. Let me make sure I get all my points into that. Okay. So 20 to 90 minutes. Now, let me just share with you some statistics, because we're going to go over a little bit today, because I just really wanted to just, put a fine check mark or whatever on this, because these statistics, you cannot dispute that. All right. So, from my lens as a Black woman, right? Cardiovascular disease is a number one killer for all women. So, this is from goredforwomen.org that I'm reading from right here. And it says 59% of Black women ages 20 and over are living with some form of cardiovascular disease. So it's important that Black women know how to take action to protect their health. Now, I have high blood pressure. I have been diagnosed since 1994. I have been on high blood pressure medication for all of this time. However.com, when I go into my annual appointments now, my blood pressure is regulated. All right. It was 122/71, which is within normal limits. So we have to understand the gravity, right? Because when people tell me I don't do cardio, I don't like to sweat, I can't do any of that. We're putting ourselves at a higher risk, especially Black women. All right. They also say Black women have the highest prevalence of high blood pressure, and only 25% of Black women have their blood pressure under control. 25%. Okay. And also, it says almost 57% of Black women are obese, and it's the highest percentage among all racial, ethnic, and sex groups. All right. And it says Black women are more likely to have undiagnosed diabetes. And the prevalence of strokes for Black women is 2 times higher than that of white women. So, y'all, this is some serious consequences. Here's some things. If you are in this community, right, where we are change makers, trailblazers, we're change agents, we're making things happen. It is so important that we are taking care of ourselves from a health perspective. All right. So that's why I'm reading this to you all. This is not stuff that I'm just making up. All right. So I am the advocate for fitness, but fitness as a starting point or foundation can absolutely factor in your presence, your power, your style, and the longevity that requires. So, we have to sustain. And sometimes we just look at it as a short-lived experience, and it's not. All right. You have to be intentional. You have to put in the work. So not only do I have a solid fitness regime, and I don't even really think about it, y'all. I just go downstairs. I have a spin bike. I have a treadmill. I have hand weights all the way up to 50 pounds. There's no thinking. I just go downstairs and I just do. I push, and sometimes I do YouTube videos. We have a TV down there. It is a system that I have built for myself so that way I can continue to put the workout in or get it in. But I also understand nutrition, and what I am eating supports how I perform. So for me, I'm eating chicken, fish, and this is grilled. We don't do anything fried. Okay. Now, occasionally I will have like fried catfish. I usually don't eat fried chicken. But that is once in an ever a blue moon because my body doesn't like that. My body does not respond well to um, heavy caloried, heavy, high cholesterol type of foods anymore. It kind of rejects it. So I eat grilled chicken, grilled fish, brown rice, sweet potatoes, broccoli or green beans, oatmeal. I have my protein powder, my egg whites, strawberries. I am very basic and boring when it comes to my diet. Right. So, because I understand the level for which I want to exercise at, I make sure that I'm putting the right foods in my body. And I don't give any excuses as to why I should eat something else differently. So, I also remember one of my friends when I was stationed in Vegas as well at Nellis Air Force Base. His name is David Deloney. And we worked together. And he said, you know, boring foods or bland, not even bland foods, because I put, pepper on my food, but boring foods really can get you to where you need to be because you keep it simple. You keep it basic. All right. We're not coming up with concoctions and adding, preservatives and additives that are not good for your body. That all that extra sodium, um, it just bloats you. And again, I'm in mid-age. And so I had to be very careful about how I manage this season of life. And I'll just leave that at that because that'll probably be another conversation um for another day. But there's no confusion to the food that I'm selecting to eat. There's no guessing. This is all in alignment. All right. I have researched a lot about nutrition and eating and fueling your body and knowing what works and what doesn't work. I really pay attention to how food is being processed in my body. All right. So this is really not just about looks. However, you will see some changes and some transformations in your body if you start to look at what your workouts are and your nutrition are. But I deal with fewer arthritic issues. I don't know how or when it really started to happen, but I started to get inflammation in my joints. And I had to really think about like what was I eating, and I realized I was eating AJ's foods. Okay. And AJ, he's 16. He can eat pretty much all the things, right? But I was grabbing a granola bar here and there, like if I was running out of time or if I was running low on my foods and so forth. And even just a granola bar was messing my joints up because I eliminated that. And so for about 2 months now, I have not eaten, things that I know will get my arthritis, up and because my big toe was hurting. I was like, why is my big toe hurting here while I'm running? No, we cannot have that. Um, and my energy, and so my emotional um regulation, right? Regulating how you respond to certain activities. Like this morning when our son missed the bus, I could have really gone off, okay, to left field and just been like, what are we doing? Why is this happening? What were you doing up there? Right? I could have really went into the spinning. And so I knew, okay, that um I can control my emotions. All right. I can be calm. I have been calm under pressure many a time. So we start to be in tune, all right, to that. But fitness has really strengthened me during my transition into entrepreneurship. So when I was not sure of where I wanted to start, how I wanted to step out, if I wanted to be an entrepreneur, that type of thing, I continued with my workouts after I left from the military, which is something a lot of people give up. All right. I have a lot of friends, I have a lot of peers who have served for a very long time. And a lot of them says, I just stopped working out. And I'm like, why? Like, well, I just, I had to do it while we were in the military. I'm like, well, you have to do it now too. You have to do it now more now than we would actually did in the military because we're older and we're subjected to a lot of other different things. So, um, I would say like it really gave me the structure when everything else was shifting, right? And it kept my mind sharp, my discipline intact, even when our equipment wasn't here and we were moving, I was running outside. I was walking outside. I was doing push ups and sit ups in our living room, you know, doing what I could, right? Until the equipment got there. But there was no like, okay, I'm just going to stop and not, figure it out. But it kept my mind moving and gave me ideas. And they started to come quicker when I became a lot more focused from my workouts. And that for me is power. That for me is power. All right. So seeing a level of commitment is really, something that I know has reinforced my lifestyle. This is not a phase. This is not a phase of time for me. And I have a protective hairstyle because I do want to work out intensely, but I ain't got time to be working on my hair every 5 seconds. And so these are the things that we have to put into our system so that way we can continue to do things that we say we want to do because it really shows up in your presence. You stand up differently, you move with intention, you communicate with clarity, you're dressing with purpose, you're not overcompensating for anything. And that's that quiet power that people always talking about. All right. So what is your foundation? All right. How do you show up in your presence? What is it that fuels you? Um, and people can feel that before you ever speak. Right. I've gotten into kind of a rhythm of going into networking events and not speaking. All right. Because I understand what the environment calls for. I understand how I can show up. I understand what to wear in the different types of environments that I'm going into. One day I can pump it up really, really loud. Other times I'm kind of like, okay, there's a sense of more professionalism in here. It varies, but I'm so aware, y'all, so aware. Um, so if you're over 50, or maybe you're close to being 50, all right, and getting back into fitness, um, I want you to start, but I want you to be very strategic, okay? I want you to be very strategic because a lot of people try to do everything at once, okay? They're like, oh, so my sister's getting married in June. It's her first marriage. So I'm on a whole another fitness regime to be prepared to be in my bridesmaid's dress. Okay, it's a plan. Okay, y'all. Because I'm like, okay, all eyes will be on us. I just want to make sure, right? Um, but you know, I could be trying to do everything at once, but I know there is a plan. I've been on this plan for some time and making some tweaks and adjustments. All right. We have to create the habits. The habits have to be there. Okay. And the good habits. I'm not talking about random. All right. This is something that you need to start to explore. What are you doing on a daily basis that is helping you, improving your state? And today we're talking about your fitness, your and your overall health. Um, so don't try to do everything at once. Focus on consistency over intensity. Okay, because people are like, well, I haven't started. I'm gonna just start running today, and I haven't ran in like 3 years, or four, whatever the number, or this is my first time running. We have to build up to it. So concentrate on just showing up. All right. Maybe you do 10 minutes one day, then you build up to 20 minutes the next week. I mean, whatever it is, but gradually. All right. And please, let's prioritize strength training. All right. Because it's going to protect your body long term. So again, I get in my spurts. Sometimes I'm just doing cardio, but I'm like, no, queen, we got to put we got to pick up some weights here. All right. So strength training is one of those things, especially over the age of 50. I'm not going to say this enough. All right. We got to be challenge ourselves with weights, and we need to add walking because it's the most unrated tool. You can always be walking, right? When you can't run anymore, you can walk. And then when you can't walk anymore, then maybe it's in the pool, right? There are different modalities to fitness that you can start to look into. All right, but the main thing is to keep your body moving, and we need to be stretching. Okay, mobility matters more now than ever. All right, I understand that. I stretch in the morning, before I exercise, after I exercise, and then before I go to bed, because usually I am walking. So after I take a shower, get ready for the night, I'm watching just a little bit of TV, but I am stretching at the same time because I don't want to wake up feeling like an old lady. All right, I ain't there yet, y'all. We got to listen to our bodies and not our ego, because we could be seeing other people working out and we're like, yeah, we could do that too. And then before you know, you may be injured or you may not feeling up to it. You get discouraged because you're not seeing the results. And y'all, the results of what you're trying to look for, it may take a while. All right. The transformation doesn't happen overnight. So you have to understand, all right? But most importantly, commit to the identity and not just the activity. Is this something that you want to be part of who you are? For me, it's a yes. I want people to say, oh my goodness, she looks like she exercised. And I'm like, yeah, I do, right? I do want that for myself, all right? And you're not trying to work out, all right? So let's stop using the word trying. I hear this all the time. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. I should do this. I should do that. No, I will and I am going to. Okay. And then you just do it. You need to just start because you're becoming someone who trains consistently. All right. So this is not something that I turn on and then turn off again. This is I don't play in that space anymore. Yeah, training is amazing for our minds and bodies. I worked on my biceps and chest today using free weights. See, you know, perfect example of doing things intentionally. She worked on certain muscle groups today, all right, to get the attention. So she has goals, right? We all have to be planning out our activity and balancing this out. So this is not something that we should do like, okay, one day we're going to do it and then the next day we're not, one day we may, no, we are going to schedule time to work on our minds and our bodies in this fitness realm that I'm speaking to today. This is something you have to choose to maintain. I choose every day to maintain. And sometimes people go, it's not important. Well, it gets important when you are getting a diagnosis, okay, or you have a significant event, medical event. I worked in the medical community for a very long time, for over 20 years. I have seen the manifestations of illnesses that got way out of control. All right. And sometimes there's no turning back from it. So we are in preventive mode. All right. That's what I like to think. Everything that we do starts with how we care for ourselves. And this is really truly about taking care of ourselves in the moment. All right. So if you really want to elevate your visibility, okay, refine your presence and lead with authority, your physical discipline has to match your ambition. Your physical discipline has to match your ambition. All right. So that is today's Rise and Slay talk show. And yes, I took it over just a little bit because I really feel passionate and I really feel like this has been one of the things that has helped me to not only be successful in my career, but also in my entrepreneurship journey. Working out every day is not a chore for me. All right. It is not, well, I'm, I have to work out. I don't want to, I could really skip today. None of these things come into my mind anymore because it is part of my lifestyle. All right. So choose activity, okay, that you can fall in love with and that you could do to continue on in your fitness journey. Make sure you're fueling your body with the right fuel. Make sure we're drinking water. All right. I forgot to share that too. Water. A lot of people are dehydrated. They're walking around, you know, and they don't know why they're getting headaches. They don't know why their back and their knees are hurting. They don't know why their mouth is so dry. It's because you are dehydrated. You should probably end up, and this is what I do. I'm just sharing things that I do. In the morning, I have my bottle of water on my dresser. When I wake up, I'm drinking water. All right. It's the first thing that I do before I go to the bathroom, drinking water. All right. Because it helps to hydrate you and keep on top of that, because we lose a lot of water when we're sleeping. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't understand why I can't get through the workout. Well, it's probably because you're dehydrated. All right. And we don't want that to happen for ourselves. So, this is all about aligning your fitness with the level of influence you're stepping into. And we want to step into high influential areas. We have meaningful work that we're doing and making impact, all right, in today's world. So, thank you all for joining me live this morning. Again, this is went a little bit longer, but that's okay. Chris and Chevy on the LinkedIn side, thank you so much for joining me live. And for anyone who comes back for the replay, put in hashtag replay and then put in your comments or your takeaways from today's show. And I will see you all back here on Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Slay to Success Talk Show. So keep on slaying until you can't slay no more. And I will talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.